Hello, welcome again to Benchwarmers. Matt Zimmer from Argus Leader Media coming up, talking about Jackrabbit football and baseball and some Summit League news. But start with Chad Barman, the executive director of SEBA, the Sioux Empire Baseball Association, and it is a busy week for these guys with the Central Plains Regional Tournament coming up. First, we got to talk about this Wisconsin guy.
Yep.
Tell me the Packer story. You're a Wisconsin guy until you get to the Packers.
I am. Diehard Badger fan, diehard Brewer fan. I've never liked the Packers.
That is awesome. Why?
I growing up, kind of found Packer fans mildly annoying. So I chose to go elsewhere with my NFL fandom. And I grew up in a lot of classrooms where I was the only guy not rooting for the Packers on Sunday, but don't regret it for a minute.
Not Vikings.
Not the Vikings. I'm actually a Cowboy fan, which is what it is at this point in life. But yeah, so that was a different choice that I made growing up.
Well done. Brewers fan in baseball, though.
Definitely Brewers fan. You bet.
All right. The Central Plains Regional Tournament is a big deal. Come to Sioux Falls this week. This is a 2-year hosting gig for this year and next year. Is that right?
Yep, 2019, 2020.
All right. Let's take a look at the field that is going to play in this tournament. It's going to be at Sioux Falls Stadium. And this is teams from Iowa. You see Dubuque County here is the defending champion in this region. Appleton, Wisconsin. We got Excelsior, Minnesota taking on Fargo. That's going to be a great game in the first round on Wednesday. Oshkosh, Wisconsin is the Wisconsin champion. Renner is the South Dakota champion this year. Edina, Minnesota is the runner-up in Minnesota. And then the host team is Sioux Falls Post 15 West. So just talk about the field here and how good a baseball this is going to be, Chad.
Yeah, the field is very impressive. We're looking at 6 teams that have single-digit losses. I mean, to go through an entire summer and play upwards of 50 games and to lose, less than 20% of them, that's very impressive. And then as you get a little deeper into this, you look at that Excelsior and Fargo matchup specifically, where you have almost 100 wins between the two teams and you have 7 losses. That right there should be the day one highlight that everybody should try to watch.
Excelsior, Minnesota is 52-2. Fargo, the North Dakota champions, post 2, 46 wins, 5 losses coming into this tournament. So, as you said, 98 wins and 7 losses in that first round matchup. Dubuque, you said, Dubuque, Iowa. Iowa moves in this year. Nebraska is not in our region.
Wisconsin moves in.
Wisconsin moves in. Nebraska moves out this year.
Yep. So the Dubuque County team actually hasn't played together much. They do their Legion State tournament in the spring because they play high school baseball in the summer. Okay. So, you'll see the Dubuque team with maybe 10, 11, 12 games total. Won their state tournament, but obviously they're the defending champions, so they head into this thing as one of the favorites again as well. And
one of the best players in Iowa, the Iowa
I believe that
player
is
of the year for this Dubuque County team. Edina, Minnesota is the other Minnesota team in here, coached by, their head coach is Gene Larkin, the hero of the 1991 World Series for the Minnesota Twins. This is cool.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to just have that kind of name in town. I mean, they've done a really good job of having a good program. I mean, those 2 Minnesota programs are top of the line every single year. Excelsior has as much history as anybody else, and Edina's program is top notch as well.
Renner, post 307, is the South Dakota champ this year. First time they've ever won it. What kind of got into this Renner program this year?
Renner played absolutely phenomenal at the state tournament. I don't think they went into the tournament as the favorite, but they just smoked everybody all week. 5-0. You don't see that very often either, to get through a double elimination tournament undefeated. So they're playing their best baseball at the right time. So it'll be really, really interesting to see if they can continue that. And, biasedly, I want the 2 South Dakota teams to do as well as possible. So hopefully them and West can both pick up a couple victories at some point this week.
All right, winner of this goes to the final 8 in American Legion, the American Legion World Series, right?
Yep. American Legion World Series in Shelby, North Carolina. So winner of this will be in Sioux Falls until next Tuesday, and then they'll hop on a plane for North Carolina.
All right, and you're doing a lot of prep right now. You got all these teams coming in. Hospitality is a huge part of doing this, and that is a huge task for you and your guys, right?
Yeah, so we've been at this for multiple months trying to piece everything together, and then you get down to crunch time, and Minnesota finishes their state tournament on Sunday. Their teams left this morning, so in the span of 36 hours, we're trying to put the finishing touches on and get ready to kick off the thing tomorrow. I think we open the gates for the teams at 6:30 in the morning for that 9 o'clock game, and fans will start rolling in around 7:30.
And the stadium, Sioux Falls Stadium, is a great place to play baseball.
Yeah,
it really is.
The National Legion guys who are currently in town and have been in town for the pre-event items have done nothing but rave about the stadium and the opportunities that it'll be for the players. And we know that from locally with the high school state tournament that we host there as well. So I fully expect there to be positive feedback, and hopefully we do a good enough job where they'd want to continue to come here with this tournament.
All right, weather looks good. The Central Plains Regional Tournament starts Wednesday, goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday through Sunday. We will have some games here on Midco Sports Network. We'll tell you where you can see these Legion games coming up. We'll talk more about SEBA with Chad Barman here, some of the high school league that you guys are developing, some fall camps that are coming up for some baseball opportunities. More with Chad when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Welcome back with Chad Barman, the Executive Director of the Sioux Empire Baseball Association, better known as SEBA, around Sioux Falls. Let's talk a little bit about your organization. And you can take kids from when they're how young and all the way through the next 15 years if they want to play baseball. When do you start?
Yeah, so we offer a rookies program for 4-year-olds, which it's a cool introduction to baseball opportunity. We have our Legion kids run it. So the 3 coaches and the 18 players, they're in charge of running our rookies program. And so we have 8 to 10 teams of 10 kids every year. And it's more of a skills learning opportunity to see if they want to play t-ball as 5-year-olds or coach pitch as 6-year-olds. And it's also a really neat way for our older kids to give back to, you know, the program that they may have grown up in. And then, you continue all the way through. You end up with Legion Baseball with East and West. We sponsor the high school club teams as well. So at some point, if you're going to play baseball in Sioux Falls, you'll probably come through our program, whether you know it or not. We sponsor those high school programs in name, but they follow all the high school activities, rules, and things like that. But yeah, it's a cool opportunity for sure.
All right, start competitive games in the 4th grade. What has there gone? Research that's gone into that's about the right place to start? Or
well, our background on that, we start kid pitch at 3rd grade, and then we find that it's not really right to have people designate recreational or competitive that first year. So we end up 4th grade is where you can choose competitive or rec, and it's self-assigned. So, you know, if family A wants to play competitive and they're really, really good, that's the right fit. If family B wants to play competitive and maybe that's the wrong fit, then they just adjust for their 5th grade year, and it just goes on. And we actually offer both comp and rec style opportunities all the way through the levels, right?
All right, you touched on the high school things. I was reading about coming up next year, 2020, you'll have at Harmon Park in Sioux Falls, you'll have a high school league. That is kind of a new thing, right?
Yeah, so we've looked at our programming the last couple of years and noticed that our opportunity for high school kids ended when high school baseball ended, Memorial Day. Well, baseball season, baseball weather in South Dakota is really May, June, July. So last year we added 9th graders. We've always had a middle school league, 7th and 8th graders out at Harmon Park. They've played on the smaller fields that are out there. After talking with a bunch of people and looking at things and looking at other areas in the Midwest that do things, we've decided that any kid now who is just finished their 9th, 10th, or 11th grade year, we're going to have a high school league for them. Okay. The hope is to get at least 52 kids so that we can have 4 teams, start it small and maybe grow it into something. We would anticipate maybe some of the other communities in the area joining as well, just maybe some individual kids who don't want to do that 50-game Legion schedule just because, if you're a football kid or a basketball kid who used to play baseball, it's not really feasible anymore to do the 50-game schedule in addition to AAU basketball. But a 12-game schedule, if you really love the sport, is a great opportunity.
All right.
So
it would be more toward the fall where the season would be.
And now we're looking at it as we can walk you right into amateur baseball or slow pitch softball after you're done with high school, and you can do the sport for as long as you want at that point. There's not a a forced gap if you want to do other things with your summer.
All right. Always an opportunity. There's some fall camps coming up that you can sign up with SEBA website. You'll take care of them.
Yeah, we have
through the winter. Basically, you can go indoors.
Yeah, it's a 12-month thing. We offer organized camps in the fall, and then our advanced training in addition to some other camps in the winter, and we'll utilize the school schedule to do some one-day things. So, yeah, if you want to do baseball, we have opportunities.
All right, great stuff. And again, SEBA hosting the Central Plains American Legion Regional this year. Here's how you can watch it. We will stream the first 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday, and then pick it up live here on Midco Sports Network on Friday, Saturday, and then the championships coming up on Sunday in the Central Plains Regional Tournament. Chad Marman, appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, have a good week, man, with all the preparation and pulling this thing off. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, coming up next, Matt Zimmer from Argus Leader Media. Going to talk amateur baseball, the Twins, Jackrabbit football, and some Summit League news this week with Matt Zimmer. Welcome back to Benchwarmers, joined now by Matt Zimmer from Argus Leader Media, and he put on a nice shirt to join us here today. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, Tom. How are you?
Summer's fabulous. Are you playing baseball? Are you playing amateur baseball this year?
A little bit, sort of. I'm on an amateur baseball team.
You Renner Monarchs.
Yes.
Renner has become the baseball center of the universe in South Dakota.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
With the Renner amateur team and now the Renner 307 Legion team. You did a nice story on them.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal. I think they're in their 8th year of existence, and as some people may remember, it was kind of a controversial deal for them to become a team.
Yeah.
You know, it's essentially the 3rd Sioux Falls Legion team, really. You had East, West, and now you have Renner, and you know, there were a lot of people complaining that was going to dilute the talent pool, or that it was unfair, or it was going to make it harder to win championships, what have you. Well, 8 years in, they won the thing, and you can't say like they backed in or anything either. They beat Rapid City Post 22, which is still, I think, the king of the hill when it comes to Legion baseball in South Dakota. So that's a pretty big accomplishment for them.
All right, you're covering that Central Legion tournament at Sioux Falls Stadium this week. Also, the state amateur baseball tournaments get going. The Class B tournament starts Wednesday in Mitchell at Cadwell Park. The Class A tournament starts Friday. They play the first round in Brookings, and then they move that to Mitchell as well. Usual suspects in Class B. There's 32 teams in the Class B tournament. Canova and Alexandria are on different sides of the bracket. Canova's the defending champ. Who's good in Class B?
Alexandria is pretty loaded, and year in, year out, they're really good. I mean, I think they would stack up with any of the teams in Class A. They're that good.
Really?
Yeah. Got a lot of pitching. Made a couple additions this year. Chris Merrick, I'm assuming, is still the manager out there. He kind of knows the drill. They got a really good team out there. Canova, you mentioned, the defending champions. The Del Rapids Mudcats are back in it. I believe Salem's in it, some other teams. A lot of familiar faces, and even, as is usually the case in Class B, you've got some out-state teams. I think Wynot and Crofton, Nebraska, I think are probably both in it. I didn't see did Larchwood make it?
Larchwood is in,
Good to see Larchwood's back in there again. Former division rivals with Renner back in the old days. So, like you said, a lot of familiar faces, sort of usual suspects, but I think Alexandria is the favorite.
All right. Class B tournament, always a great event. Class A tournament as well. Renner has won the last 6 in a row and loaded again. You got Castlewood, Yankton, Brookings, Sioux Falls Squirrels, Sioux Falls Brewers. Aberdeen was in the championship game last year. And then you got Renner and Sturgis. Renner, the heavy favorite in Class A.
I would have to say so. I'm a little biased, obviously, being I'm on the roster. But you know, we've got a lot of pitching. And I hate saying we, but we do. You know, you got Dallas Schneiderman has pitched in the championship game so many years in a row, and he's literally given up like 1 or 2 runs in the last 6 years. And then you throw in, we added Chris Regas, a former Canaries All-Star. He's on the roster. And just a lot of pitching depth and a lot of guys that have been swinging the bats for a long time and kind of know the drill. I mean, we've only played, I think, like 13 games this summer because we've had so many rainouts and some other things that have messed with the schedule. And normally maybe that would be a concern, but when you've got a team as old as the Monarchs are, that almost sort of maybe works in your favor. Everyone's a little more rested than they would be. And when you have a veteran group like that, they kind of know just sort of how to flip the switch when it gets to state tournament time. And I think year in and year out, they kind of show that's how it goes. And once you get to Mitchell, or you know, last year it was in Sioux Falls, you get the whole roster there and everyone is kind of focused in and knows the drill. And you know, 6 years in a row, it's worked for them.
Yeah. You do have 1 hit this year.
I'm 1 for 4 on the season.
Well done. They should let you pitch maybe an inning or two. All right, state amateur tournaments get going this week. Quick thought on the Minnesota Twins. They've won 7 of 8 now. Seem like they're getting hot again. They get the Sano walk-off on Monday night.
That was fun.
Percent chance that they will win just the division right now?
Boy, I'd probably have to say it's over 75-80%. I mean, just, obviously Cleveland put a scare in them and got within a game, and they're still only 4 games out. But Cleveland was also beating up on what was by far the easiest part of their schedule. And now the Twins kind of have that kind of schedule the rest of the way. I think they actually do have the easiest remaining schedule in the American League just based on opponents' winning percentage.
A lot of Kansas City and Detroit and the White Sox.
Now, they got to take care of business. I mean, it's, if Cleveland's going to continue to play like they have, just winning 2 out of 3 might not even be enough. I mean, you got to get sweeps when you're playing Kansas City and Detroit and these teams that are really bad. They've been doing it lately. Getting a win last night against a first-place team, against the Braves, that was really big. What concerns me the most is the injury to Byron Buxton because they've been, you just look at, they're essentially a 600-700 team when he's in the lineup, and they're a below 500 team when he's not in the lineup. And it sounds like he could be out a while. And then when you factor in that they didn't make any real huge moves at the deadline. I mean, I really liked the Sergio Romo pickup. I like the Sam Dyson pickup too. It just has been a disaster so far. Hopefully he
might
can
work out.
Right, if he can, he's on the DL now. Maybe if he can get that straightened out, he can still be a good addition. But their starting rotation looks a little thin. So I really think they're gonna. I think they're gonna do it, but I think they're gonna be holding off Cleveland all the way to the end.
The angst has died down a little bit.
A little bit.
Winning some games here.
Well, when you hit 3 homers every game, that tends to.
They're fun to watch,
right.
man. So. All right, when we come back with Zim, we're going to talk some Jackrabbit football, talk about the quarterback situation, which is one of the really only question marks for South Dakota State this year. Talk about that when we come back. Welcome back with Matt Zimmer, covers South Dakota State University athletics, among lots of other things, for Argus Leader Media. Jackrabbit football fall camp is underway. You've been up there. The big question with Taryn Christian now gone at quarterback, the all-time great, who takes over at QB?
Pretty sure it's going to be Jabore Gibbs, the redshirt freshman. It's essentially a 3-man race between him, Matt Connors, another redshirt freshman, and Cannon Nelson, the junior. They essentially graded them all based on what they did in spring ball, and Jabore Gibbs was graded out the highest coming out of there, so they went into camp with him ranked number 1 based on that. But from what I've seen so far, he's getting almost all the reps with the first team offense. And I think he's the best of the 3. It's not like it's some sort of, it's pretty simple. He's the best guy for the job, I think.
The only question is he's different than Taryn Christian. Taryn Christian was so mature and such a great leader, and Gibbs is quieter and not the same way. But physically, physical-wise, ability-wise, Gibbs can really go. He's like 6'2", 230
He's a
pounds.
big
He
dude.
can run.
He's a big dude. He kind of looks like a little bit of an overgrown Taryn Christian.
Yeah.
He's got the ability to run. He's got a strong arm. It's obviously not there. He's still, not only learning the offense, but kind of learning how to make all the throws, because it's different at the college level than it is in high school. He's a really smart guy. If you have a conversation with him, he comes across as a guy who could lead an offense, who understands what needs to be done and understands what they're asking of him. But doing that is another thing entirely. I think he was a little bit slower to develop last year than they hoped. They had that new 4-game rule last year where you could play in a couple games and not lose your eligibility. I thought they'd use him. They never did. So I think maybe that tells you that he wasn't quite as far along. But come in this year, they brought in Kurt Walding, that transfer from Arizona State, allegedly kind of to push him. Well, he was there for a while and then he left, but maybe just being there for a while was enough, to kind of tell all those guys, like, hey, you need to do better or someone else is going to come in and take your job. So the real interesting thing, or maybe even difficult thing for Jabore or whoever, is they open the season against the Gophers.
Yeah.
So whoever it is going to have to make their first college start against a Big Ten team. A Big Ten team that people think might be on the up a little bit. So that's going to be really difficult for him. But the good news is, after that game, regardless of what happens, then they have a couple home games against opponents that they should be able to beat pretty handily. Obviously, he's surrounded by a ton of weapons. They're loaded at running back, wide receiver, tight end. If the offensive line, which, it's kind of a little bit of a mix and match there because of some injuries, but every guy they have there has played, has started games. So I think if that offensive line can gel, I think they still have a chance to be pretty good, and Jabore Gibbs or whoever, again, can kind of be on this sort of path throughout the season and gradually get better and better by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's the thought, is if Gibbs can do his thing, then everything else is in place. Again, at Minnesota on August 29th, and then they get those 3 straight non-conference home games. At least national semifinals, at least national semis is what the goal is. You got North Dakota State, James Madison. Sounds like UC Davis is going to be really good, but the Jacks should be in that mix. Maybe to get to Frisco. That's the thought.
It's such a weird thing because, you know, like we just said, they're loaded everywhere. But to think that they couldn't quite make it to Frisco when they had Zach Zenner or Jake Winicky or Dallas Goddard or Taryn Christian, can they do it now with a freshman quarterback who's never played? Yeah. Seems like that would be a difficult ask, but you just said it. I mean, the thing about FCS football is, you know, it's a 24-team playoff and all this. There's obviously 100 teams, whatever, but there's really only every year about a half dozen, 10 or so that are like legit national champion contenders. Obviously NDSU is way at the top, but FCSU has gotten to the point now where you don't really expect them to have to rebuild. I mean, they find a way to sort of reload and replace guys, and that's how you get to the playoffs 7 years in a row.
All right, Jacks are going to be good. A little bit more with Matt Zimmer when we come back. Just a thought on some big Summit League news that came out this week when we come back on Benchwarmers.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Welcome back. Quick thought from Matt Zimmer. Summit League is going to lose another team next year. Purdue Fort Wayne came out this week and said they are leaving the Summit League next season to go to the Horizon League. What do you think?
Not a big surprise. I mean, I think it was kind of no secret that they didn't think this was maybe the greatest fit and then kind of wanted out. I don't think it's a school that people are going to miss terribly, although it does hurt. They're a baseball school, and the Summit League is short on baseball schools, so that's a problem. The big question is, what does that mean for Augustana? Because everyone wants to know, is Augie going to get into the Summit League? Does this help their case? Does this make the conference go, oh, we need another member, we'll pull them in? Does it make it even harder because then the Dakota schools go, oh, it's becoming too Dakota-centric? I guess we'll see.
All right, see you next week.